They erased my name from the will, banned me from my own father's funeral. And then months later, they showed up at my doorstep, not with an apology, but a demand that I give them a third of the company I built from nothing. I laughed. I thought it was a bad joke, but they were dead serious. When I refused, they sued me. Yeah, my own family. But what they didn't know was I had been preparing for this day my entire life. And when I finally struck back, I made sure they felt every ounce of what they tried to take from me. If you've ever been cast aside by the people who should have had your back, stay with me. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about taking back your power. I grew up in a family where love came with conditions. If you weren't the golden child, you didn't matter. And I wasn't the golden child. That was my younger sibling, charming, brilliant, everything my parents ever wanted in me. I was the backup plan, the shadow. I learned early not to expect praise support or even basic fairness. But there was one person who saw me, my grandmother. She didn't say much, but she gave me something when I turned 18, a small savings account she'd kept secret from the rest of the family. Build your own life, she told me. So I did. I used that money as seed capital for what would become a software company, something no one in my family ever believed in. They called it your little internet hobby. But one day, that hobby would be worth nearly $5 million. And the people who once laughed at me, they'd be back. With lawyers, with demands, and I would be ready. Growing up, I always felt like I was invisible in my family. My parents' attention was never really mine. It was always on my younger sibling, Emma. She was the perfect one, the golden child who never made a mistake. I was just there, the shadow standing behind her. At family dinners, when I tried to share my dreams or talk about what I was passionate about, the words barely landed. That's just internet nonsense, my father would say, dismissively. My mother would just nod along as if my ideas were silly distractions that didn't deserve serious thought. I remember one Thanksgiving dinner when I nervously told them I wanted to start my own business. The room went silent. Then my brother Jake laughed out loud. You running a business? That's a joke. Everyone else joined in smirking or shaking their heads. I felt small, crushed under their expectations. The only person who ever believed in me was Grandma Rose. She was the quiet force in my life, the one who didn't follow the family's harsh judgments. While others ignored me, she saw me. When I turned 18, she handed me a small envelope with a gentle smile. This is for you, she said. Use it wisely. Build your own path. It was a modest sum, but to me, it was everything. It was hope. It was trust. And it was freedom from their judgment. Starting out wasn't easy. I didn't have fancy offices or a big team. Just me, my laptop, and a handful of ideas. I faced failures, tons of them. There were nights I wanted to quit, nights I cried alone in my tiny apartment, but Grandma's gift reminded me why I had to keep going. Meanwhile, back home, my family continued to dismiss me. Emma got praised for every little achievement while I was the internet kid who wasted her time. Their words stung, but I kept silent, focusing on building something that would prove them wrong. As the years passed, I worked harder than I ever thought possible. I learned everything about software development, business, strategy, and marketing. I connected with mentors, made mistakes, and slowly my company began to grow. The turning point came when I met Mark, a business mentor who saw potential in me. He taught me how to pitch to investors, how to manage a team, and most importantly, how to believe in myself. With his guidance, I secured my first round of funding. The company, Nexusoft, started gaining traction. Clients loved our products. Media outlets took notice. I finally felt the pride that had been missing for so long. But none of that mattered to my family. To them, I was still the internet kid, not the successful entrepreneur, not the woman who had built a multi-million-dollar business from scratch. So when my father passed away unexpectedly, the old wounds reopened. Instead of mourning together, they excluded me. They erased my name from the will, saying I had never contributed to the family. Worse, they even stopped me from attending the funeral, saying it would be too difficult for Emma and the others. That was the moment I realized my family didn't see me as their own. Months later, they came knocking at my door with lawyers and demands. They wanted a third of my company's worth, the money I had earned with my own blood, sweat, and tears. Their greed shocked me, but it didn't surprise me. I'd known for years that I would have to fight for my place, so I said no. And when they sued me, I was ready. After the shock of being cut out of my father's will and the cold dismissal at his funeral, I knew I had to push harder than ever. I couldn't let my family's betrayal define me or my future. I poured every ounce of energy into Nexusoft, the company I had started with Grandma Rose's gift and countless sleepless nights. But success didn't come overnight. The first year was brutal. Our product launch failed miserably. Investors pulled out last minute. I almost lost hope. Yet every time doubt crept in, I thought of Grandma's words, "Build your own path." That kept me going. The turning point came when I met Mark Jensen, a seasoned business mentor who saw beyond the internet kid label. Mark didn't just teach me business strategies, he challenged me to believe in myself, to turn failures into lessons. With his guidance, I restructured the company's vision and refined our flagship software. Slowly, Nexusoft started to attract attention. Small clients became loyal partners. Media outlets began featuring our success story, the underdog, who defied the odds. I finally felt recognized, not just by strangers, but by myself. Then came the biggest break. A major tech magazine ran a front-page article about Nexusoft's innovative solutions. The buzz led to an acquisition offer worth nearly $5 million. For someone who had been laughed at by family for wasting time on the internet, this was a vindication. But just as I prepared to celebrate, the past came crashing back. A few days after the acquisition closed, my mother Emma and my brother-in-law Daniel showed up at my house. Their smiles were forced, their eyes calculating. "You owe us," my mother said coldly. "After everything we did for you, you can't just keep this money." I stared at them, disbelief mixing with anger. "I built this company alone, from nothing. You never helped. You never believed in me. Why should I owe you anything?" Their response was swift and ruthless. A lawsuit demanding a third of the company's value, claiming they had rights as family members. The courtroom battle was intense. My family's lawyers painted me as selfish and ungrateful. But my legal team was prepared. We gathered evidence showing I started from zero without any financial or emotional support from them. More shocking was what surfaced during the trial: my family's history of greed. The lawyer revealed how my mother and siblings once tried to claim part of a lottery jackpot won by a distant relative, only to be denied. This wasn't about fairness. It was about entitlement. The turning point came when the letter from Grandma Rose was introduced as evidence. In her handwritten note, she made clear her wishes that I be supported to build my own future independent of the toxic family dynamics. That letter wasn't just paper. It was a shield, a testament to the one person who truly believed in me. As the trial unfolded, I realized this fight wasn't just about money. It was about respect, identity, and reclaiming my narrative. No matter how hard they tried, my family couldn't rewrite the story of who I was and what I had achieved. And when the judge ruled in my favor, it wasn't just a legal victory, it was a moment of personal triumph. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. I sat there, heart pounding, as my family's accusations flew like arrows. Their lawyers portrayed me as greedy, cold, and ungrateful, the villain who had stolen from her own blood. Their words cut deep, but I refused to let them see me falter. I remembered every moment that led me here, every insult, every dismissal, every lonely night spent building Nexusoft from scratch. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was the culmination of years of pain and neglect. My attorney, Sarah, was calm and fierce. She stood up and laid out my story clearly. My client built her company with her own resources, she said. She was rejected and dismissed by her family, yet she persevered. The claim that she owes a third of her company to her relatives is baseless and unjust. The court listened as Sarah presented documents, bank records, and testimony from investors. The evidence was overwhelming. Everything showed that I had no financial help from my family, not a single penny. But then came the bombshell. During cross-examination, Sarah revealed something shocking about my family's own conduct. She uncovered old records showing that my mother and siblings had once tried to claim a large portion of a lottery prize won by a distant relative. They had been refused by the courts because their claim was fraudulent. The courtroom murmured. This was not just about me. It was about a family pattern of greed and entitlement, a pattern I had always been trapped in, but now was breaking free from. The turning point came when the judge asked for more clarity about a letter left by my grandmother, Grandma Rose. The letter was read aloud in court. To whom it may concern, I have watched my family treat my granddaughter unfairly. She has always been overlooked and misunderstood. I want her to have the means to build her own life away from this pain. This gift is her independence and her right. Rose. That letter was my salvation. It was the one piece of true support I had ever received from my family, and it proved that I was never indebted to anyone. Still, the emotional weight of this fight pressed heavily on me. I thought about my father, the man whose funeral I was banned from attending, the man whose passing had triggered this storm. I never wanted this battle to be about revenge. I wanted peace, but peace was elusive. My mother and Emma refused to back down. After court hours, I would get cold calls, threats disguised as family concerns. Their messages aimed to wear me down. They accused me of being heartless, selfish, and disloyal. The worst was Daniel, Emma's husband. He once showed up unannounced at my office demanding a private meeting. I refused. But the encounter left me shaken. It was clear they wanted to intimidate me. Despite it all, I held my ground. At home, I felt the loneliness keenly. Family was supposed to be a source of strength, but mine had become the source of my deepest wounds. I wondered if things would ever be normal again. One night, I sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. I thought about how far I had come from a dismissed internet kid to a business owner fighting for what was rightfully mine. I also thought about forgiveness and what that might mean. Could I ever forgive them for what they did, for shutting me out, for trying to take what I earned? The trial dragged on for weeks each day, testing my resolve. But with each passing moment, I became more certain of who I was. I was not just the sum of my family's judgments. I was a fighter, a creator, a survivor. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. The judge entered the courtroom, eyes serious. The room fell silent. "We have considered all evidence," the judge began, "and find no legal basis to support the claims made by the plaintiff. The defendant acted independently and rightfully owns her company and assets." The relief that flooded me was overwhelming, but it was bittersweet. I had won the legal battle, but the emotional scars remained. Walking out of the courtroom, cameras flashing, reporters waiting for a statement, I said simply, "This isn't about money. It's about respect and recognition. I hope my family can one day see me for who I truly am." Back home, I closed the door and let the exhaustion wash over me. I was free, but at what cost? Over the next few days, I reflected deeply. The fight had shown me the worst of my family, but also the best in myself. I realized that my worth was never tied to their approval, and while the wounds ran deep, I had the power to heal. After the courtroom drama ended, I thought I'd feel a sense of triumph. Instead, what I felt was emptiness. Winning the case didn't heal the deep wounds left by years of rejection and betrayal. It didn't erase the memories of being disowned or the hurt of being shut out from my father's funeral. The victory felt hollow. In the quiet of my apartment, I wrestled with my emotions. Anger still simmered beneath the surface, but there was something else, a growing awareness that I couldn't keep living in the past. The fight had been necessary, but it was not the end. One evening, I received an unexpected call from my younger sister, Lily. She was hesitant at first, unsure if I'd want to talk, but I listened. She admitted that she'd felt caught between loyalty to our mother and a desire for a better relationship with me. Her voice trembled as she said, "I don't want us to lose each other over money or old grudges." That conversation was a small crack in the wall between us. It didn't erase the hurt, but it opened the door to something new, hope. Around the same time, I started therapy. I realized that the emotional scars from my family went beyond the courtroom. The sense of abandonment, the constant feeling of not being enough, those wounds needed healing. Therapy became a space where I could unpack my pain, understand my worth, and rebuild my sense of self. It was hard work. Some days I wanted to give up. But gradually, I learned to be kinder to myself. I practiced forgiveness, not for them, but for me. Forgiveness was a way to release the poison that bitterness had become. I also reflected on what family really meant to me. Blood ties didn't guarantee love or respect. I had to decide what kind of relationships I wanted moving forward. Could I redefine family on my own terms? One morning, after a session with my therapist, I made a decision. I would create boundaries that protected my peace and invest my energy in meaningful connections with people who truly cared. I started a scholarship fund in Grandma Rose's name, dedicated to supporting young people from broken or difficult family backgrounds who wanted to pursue education or start their own businesses. It was my way of honoring the one family member who believed in me and helping others escape cycles of neglect. The scholarship also became a symbol of my choice to build something positive out of pain, but my decision didn't stop at charity. I reached out to Lily and proposed a meeting, just the two of us. We met at a quiet cafe away from the drama and expectations. We talked for hours, not about money or past grievances, but about our dreams, fears, and hopes. It was the first real connection we'd had in years. I shared parts of my journey she hadn't known: the loneliness, the struggles, and the moments of doubt. She listened without judgment, and she shared her own story, the pressure she'd felt to side with our mother, and her wish to rebuild our relationship. That day, we planted a seed, fragile but real. At the same time, I kept my distance from my mother and Emma. I made it clear that reconciliation was only possible if they respected my boundaries and stopped the harassment. I wasn't ready to forgive them yet, but I was ready to protect myself. My relationship with Daniel remained tense, but I refused to let fear control me. I strengthened security measures at work and home, focusing on my safety and peace of mind. Through all this, my partner, my person, was my rock. They reminded me daily of my strength and worth. Their support helped me face the past without being consumed by it. I realized that my journey was no longer about fighting a battle. It was about reclaiming my life. I was learning that healing wasn't linear. Some days were good, others hard, but every step forward was a victory. And most importantly, I was choosing love for myself and for those willing to walk beside me honestly. The months following the trial were a time of deep transformation. I threw myself into the scholarship fund I created in Grandma Rose's name, determined to make a difference for young people like me, those who faced rejection and lack of support from their own families. Helping others gave me purpose beyond the courtroom drama, and slowly my pain began to soften. Therapy continued to be a cornerstone of my healing. Each session helped me unravel the tangled emotions I'd carried for years: anger, sadness, loneliness. I learned to accept that while I could never change my family's past actions, I could choose how I responded moving forward. One unexpected moment came about 6 months later. Lily reached out again, this time without hesitation. She wanted to meet and talk openly about the possibility of rebuilding our sibling bond. It was tentative and fragile, but it was real. We agreed to take it slow, with no pressure, just honest conversations. Meanwhile, my mother and Emma kept their distance, no longer pushing their demands or trying to intimidate me. It felt like a silent truce. I didn't expect reconciliation yet, but the peace was a relief. Daniel's visits and threats stopped, and I felt safer in my home and work environment. I was no longer living in fear, but standing firm in my boundaries. The journey wasn't easy, but it was mine. In this process, I discovered that family is not just about blood. It's about respect, trust, and genuine care. I began to build a new family, friends, mentors, and my partner People who valued me for who I am, not what I could give them. Looking back, I realized the lawsuit was never just about money. It was about being seen, acknowledged, and respected. Winning the case gave me legal ownership, but the real victory was reclaiming my self-worth. My message to anyone who might be facing similar battles is simple. You deserve respect. You deserve love. And most of all, you deserve to build your life on your own terms. If your family hurts you, remember your healing doesn't depend on their approval. It depends on your courage to choose peace and self-love. To those who feel trapped in toxic relationships, I encourage you to seek support, whether it's therapy, friends, or community. You're not alone. And if you have the chance, reach out to those who might want to reconnect. Healing is possible, but it requires honesty, boundaries, and time. I'm still learning, still growing. But every day, I am grateful for the strength I found within myself and for the family I am choosing to build. If you've ever felt rejected or betrayed by those closest to you, remember this story. You are stronger than you know, and your future is yours to write. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support means the world. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, and remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the greatest healing.